Everyone present, vote aye on the electronic voting board.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right. Just for purposes of getting the docket in order, House Bill 73, Delegate Thomas's bill, which was identical to Senator Stewart and Reeves' bill, Senator Edmonds' bill, which is increasing the speed limit on US 501, and House Bill 684, Delegate Ranson's bill, which is increasing the speed limit on certain highways off of Route 3. Finance has asked for the bills. There's nothing wrong with the bills. It just now we have a report of a financial impact on those. And if there's a motion that we refer these in a block to finance. It's been moved and seconded that we refer these House Bill 73, House Bill 55, and House Bill 684 to finance. All in favor vote aye on electronic voting board. Yours didn't show.
9 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Next is House Bill 1525. This is Delegate Yancey's bill, handheld personal communication devices in a work zone. This was heard in House courts, and it's been requested that we refer House Bill 1525 to courts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We refer House Bill 1525 to courts. All in favor vote aye on electronic voting board. I got it. It ain't let me vote, Pete.
9 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. I do. Why isn't it let me vote Peake's proxy? I got his proxy, but it won't. Okay, next bill is House Bill 1413. This is a bill that was identical to Senate Bill 523, Delegate Hessel's bill. I think he left. I told him it's identical. Is there a motion that we report House Bill 1413 identical to Senator Mason's bill? Is a motion?
Yes, I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board. It's not letting me vote. Okay. Yeah, I think so.
9 ayes, 2 nays.
Delegate Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
It's good to be here.
How's Frank?
Frank is as strong as ever.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I'm sure he'd love to see you
Yeah,
all here.
Bring him down.
I'll do it. Have lunch. Good to see you. I'll be brief here. House Bill 563, I guess the summary sums it up about as good as I can. Allows vehicles of the National Guard chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high-yield explosive enhanced response force package to utilize flashing, blinking, or alternating red and white combination warning lights when responding to an emergency. And I have the colonel from the National Guard here to answer, I guess, any specific questions that the committee may have. And that is basically what the bill does.
All right. So, Colonel, do you want to speak?
Sir. Good afternoon. Lieutenant Colonel Woodleaf with the National Guard.
The bill's, it shows what it says what we're intending it to do. We have a
You like it?
we like it. Rapid reaction force. This would be helpful to them. That would increase public safety. I think it would be a good bill for us.
All right. Anyone in the audience like to speak for? Anyone really want to speak against?
Good report.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. We report the bill. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
Eleven ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the committee's time. Thank you.
Delegate Edmonds gone. Delegate Ransom gone. Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1342 is not a redesign of an existing plate. It just allows DMV to recognize Wallops Island as a NASA facility. So they can put Wallops Island on the bottom of the plate.
Right. Chrissy, we didn't have a bill that was identical to this, do we? Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience like to speak to the bill? It's been moved and seconded. We report the bill. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
Eleven ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bill reports 11-0. Delegate Brewer. Welcome to Senate Transportation.
Should I be terrified? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the
Maybe.
committee. HB 11. HB 1159 is a bill to actually more of a tribute. It's an opportunity to recognize the service and sacrifice of Sergeant Lawrence G. Sprader Jr., who's from Prince George County. And this bill is to designate the bridge over Middle Road on I-295 in his honor.
Okay. You have a resolution from the localities or?
I do, and they approved it unanimously 5-0.
Okay. Anyone in the audience like to speak?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Delegate Brewer, and I mean this in the most respectful fashion. Did Sergeant Sprader do anything like above and beyond the rest of the force?
I can go over that if you'd like. He actually served 2 full combat tours in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Various personal awards: Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement, Good Conduct, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism, Army Service Ribbon, among others. And he actually died during a training exercise in Fort.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. We report House Bill 1159. All in favor, vote aye on electronic voting board.
11 ayes, 1 nay.
I'm sorry. Hold on a minute. All right.
Twelve ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. Delegate Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 114. It was brought to me by my local county and my sheriff. They're asking legislation to authorize, essentially to add them to the list of exemptions to drive golf carts across roadways. This is a dual lane where we have numerous horse events, et cetera. And it was a long-standing practice, but the illegality of this practice was only recently discovered as the sheriff was asked to provide traffic management services for the event. So it essentially says that they can drive the golf carts across 2 roads in Fauquier County, essentially, as long as they put up 35-mile-an-hour road signs, and there's a uniform.
How many events they have a year?
There's 3 or 4, and then there's also Gold Cup.
Okay. Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone in the audience in opposition? Anyone on the committee have a question?
Unfortunately, report another golf cart.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve another golf cart bill. All in favor say aye.
I will try and
Or-
make this one my last one.
On the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
12 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill reports 12-0. Delegate Simon.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I think we have a substitute to distribute on this one. This is a license plate bill. We've collected 500 signatures, prepaid, ready to go for a license plate bearing the legend of Stop Gun Violence. Over in the House, I think a very well-meaning and well-intentioned amendment was put on to turn this from a non-revenue plate to a revenue-generating plate and have money go to DBDHS. The problem with that is we collected 450 signatures at $10 apiece. And if we were to add the amendment and do that, we'd have to go back and repoll those folks and gather another $15 from all of them. We prefer to move forward with the plate as we have it. Certainly come back in another year and figure out a way to make it a revenue-generating plate. But this is a constituent request, and I've got the constituent who gathered the signatures here. And if you'd like to hear from her, I think she'd love to tell you guys what she was all about.
In just a moment, we will. So your substitute that you're offering basically strips out what your body did when they passed the bill?
But yeah, it takes it back to its original form as we introduced it and strips out the process, changing it to a revenue-generating plate in the direction of the money.
So what was the vote in the House on the bill with the amendment?
On the bill with the amendment, it was 89 to 9.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Marsden, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I think since the money's already been collected, to go back and have to redo this and re-solicit people for an additional $15 is inappropriate. And I would support the substitute, and I move that the substitute be accepted.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second that we adopt the substitute that was placed on the floor of the House that passed out 89 to 9. All in. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. I'm a little uncomfortable where we're going with this. Basically, again, it passed the House 89 to 8 with one abstention. I don't know what that was about. It's a House bill that was conformed to their will, and now it's back here in its original form because the House patron doesn't like what the House did. Got a little problem with that. Care to expand?
So, as I said, I think that the amendment was well-intentioned. I understand what the patron of the amendment was trying to do. We had a discussion about that on the floor. That amendment passed, just to be clear, the amendment passed 50 to 48. The bill then, with the amendment on it, passed 89 to 8 to 1. We had an abstention because we have an employee of the DBDHS who's on leave, and so she didn't feel it'd be appropriate to vote on a bill that would send revenue to her agency. That's why the abstention was about. And we didn't have a discussion, though, of what that would do to we had a discussion about the merits of the amendment and so forth. We didn't have a discussion on the floor of the House about what that would mean to the status of the current applications and the work that would be involved to go back and redo those applications. So, we could do it. I'm happy to go back and gather the additional checks and take care of it that way if we have to. Our preference was, though, we didn't want to disrupt the whole process and go through the process of getting new applications and checks from everybody if we could avoid that. That's why we're taking it back to where it was before, just so that it's, and by the way, there's no precedent as far as we could tell in dealing with the DMV for ever having a bill come here as a $10 plate and through our process being converted to a $25 plate. It's just not been done before, so we're not sure exactly what the mechanics of that would look like and how we get that done.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are license plates I don't care about, license plates I do care about, some that I find troublesome, some that I really like. And I think if we start getting into putting amendments on things to sort of kill them because we maybe don't like the message they're sending or we disagree with it, and then we change the nature of it to drive up the cost and hopefully no longer have enough people to qualify. Is a dangerous path to go down. And I think, the original intent of this thing was to create a license plate. It wasn't supposed to be for, for revenue purposes. It was to bring people together who support a particular idea. And I don't think I would want to be involved in sticking an additional fee on something just because I didn't like the message of the license plate. That's up to the number of people who have decided that that's something they want to support, and they did, and they paid their $10. And I don't think we should go back and hit them for another 15. Although I do understand what the senior senator from Chesapeake says on the matter, because it was obviously the House's intent, but I've never seen this happen before, where somebody sticks an additional revenue on something that was introduced, and I just have a problem with that. So I would ask us again to vote affirmatively on accepting the substitute.
Mr. Chair.
Hey, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've seen many times around here where if the Senate amends a House bill and the House insists on its amendment, they'll make that clear on the floor. They can send it back. We can decide what to do then, and if necessary, put it in conference. But it's not unprecedented for the Senate to change bills on the Senate side because we have a different opinion than the House, and that's sort of what the process is designed to sort those differences out.
Well, I understand the process. I do know that we didn't have this bill in the Senate. So this is the first time, and now knowing how this bill came out of the House and a substitute before us, I think it would be more beneficial to us if we let his speakers speak, explain the intent of the bill, and then look at whether we take this by for the day to just have a conversation with the House about their intent, and before we adopt a substitute.
Carol?
Well, happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for having us today. My name is Carol Luton. I'm from Falls Church City. This is my son, Sam Luton. If you don't mind, I'd like to just read what I prepared. In the past 2 years, a group of volunteers have worked on the Stop Gun Violence License Plate Program. We have strived to educate Virginians about responsible firearm ownership, and we assure you that we are striving to make our communities a safer space. We participated in Memorial Day parades, farmers markets, and local festivals across Virginia. We engaged with state and local law enforcement and distributed trigger locks to help educate and protect Virginians. We spoke with over 6,000 individuals across the state. From cities as large as Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, Fairfax, Richmond, Virginia Beach, and Roanoke, to towns as small as Collinsville, Jamestown, Castleton, Percival, Montpelier, and Bloxham. We discussed safe firearms handling and storage and distributed hundreds of Project Child Safe trigger locks donated by the National Shooting Sports Foundation. We have them here today, and we have them for anyone who would like a trigger lock if you need one. There is a serious epidemic of gun-related deaths in our country. 91 Americans die from firearms each day, and more Virginians are killed annually by gunfire than in car accidents. We designed the license plate to stop gun violence, as a way to create awareness, education, and a dialogue for gun safety and gun violence prevention. We have collected over 500 DMV applications across the Commonwealth from individuals who hold similar views from our communities. I did nothing after the Newtown, Connecticut shooting and felt badly about it. Then in September 2013, 12 individuals were fatally shot during the D.C. Navy Yard shooting. Dr. Janice Orlowski, Chief Medical Officer of MedStar Washington Hospital Center, was quoted as saying, "We have great surgeons and we can take care of individuals shot by firearms, but there is something evil in our society and this has got to stop." God spoke to me that day, and that is when I started working on helping to reduce gun-related deaths. We encourage the Senate to stand with us and vote for HB 287 on Valentine's Day. We expect that you will be pleasantly surprised by the results. We would like to show you the sample plate. This is the sample plate, what it looks like. And the logo is Stop Breaking Hearts. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak with you today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the bill? Anyone in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Sadler, Virginia Citizens Defense League. We're opposed to this because it advances a false narrative. And what I mean by that, I challenge you to find a medical examiner anywhere who says that a stabbing victim, a strangulation victim, someone run over by a car during a protest, find me a medical examiner who says they're any less dead than a gunshot victim. This is a purely political message. Political messages belong on bumper stickers, not on state agency property. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience like to speak to the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Favola.
I'm ready for a motion if you're prepared, if you're ready for a motion.
All right. We don't have the substitute adopted yet.
I was going to move adoption of the substitute.
All right, that's already
We
been
have done
moved.
that. Then I'm going to move that we go ahead and pass the bill.
All right.
We haven't-
I don't know
Did
if
you
you were
vote
in
on
here
this?
when we were having this discussion.
I probably-
The substitute's before us. However, the bill came out of the House 89-9. And the fact that we have a substitute here now to strip out what the House put on it, if you would like to move forward on it, you can make the second. We'll take the vote. If not, we can take it by for the day, find out from the House why they put the amendment on, and the idea behind it.
I guess I think has a separate body, separate and distinct body from the House. We're quite capable of making our own policy determinations. I, for one, don't think it's necessary to take this by for the day. The process will allow consultation, as you know, with the House if, in fact, we pass this. So I would suggest that we move forward. We have not been making value judgments on these license plate bills that have come before us. And, I don't think it's the time to start doing that. We have had various license plates that have given messages that have ranged the spectrum of politics. So I don't think that the message here should be the issue. It's whether you think it's appropriate to change the.
So is yours a second on the substitute?
Yes.
Okay. So now there's a motion and a second that we adopt the substitute. All in favor?
I got it here later. What is the difference? I don't actually have the bill in front of me.
The difference is the House put an amendment on the bill that would be a revenue sharing bill now, I think, with mental health.
That's correct. It said the money to special funded Department of Behavioral Health and DBDHS.
And that bill, that amendment passed, did you say 50-48?
50 to 48 and
then the bill passed 89 to
89
8 to 1. So now the substitute would strip out what the House did on the floor and pass the bill out. And the only thing that I asked, we didn't have a companion bill in the Senate, was to take it by for the day if we wanted to find out from the House what their position was and why they put the amendment on it.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Chase.
Just a quick comment to the patron. I believe in free speech, but I still have a number of questions about the substitute amendment that I would like to have some sincere time just to look over the substitute. If you wouldn't mind, could we please? I would make a substitute motion that we pass this by for the week. Otherwise, I'll have to be a no today.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to take it by for the day, substitute motion to take it by for the day in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, bill's by for the day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And your witnesses won't have to come back. We understand what the bill does. We're just going to take some time and talk to some House members and talk to them about the substitute.
Sure, and for what it's worth, Mr. Chairman, regardless of what the outcome of the substitute is, we'd like the bill to go forward. So if it turns out that it's the pleasure to reject the substitute, we'd still like to go forward in the.
I understand. This is very unusual.
Okay.
We normally don't get an 89-9 bill that the patron wants to strip out what the House floor did.
Understood. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Delegate Yancey. All right. Delegate Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 489 is a bill, and I've been strongly encouraged not to fall in love on this Valentine's Day with any of pieces of legislation that we come forward with, but I will say that I do very, very, very much like this bill. And the reason I like this bill is because I didn't even come up with the idea for this bill. The idea actually came from the town of Rich Creek, and more specifically, their town police chief, which is a one-man police department. Right. And he called after the election and said, Chris, we have a problem because when the town of Rich Creek in Giles County is trying to collect delinquent vehicle taxes and license fees, they are seeing a problem where they simply are having a hard time with those collections. And it's because people are still able to register a new vehicle and evade what's called a DMV stop. And so we were looking at trying to find a solution to this, and we think that we have a solution that passed unanimously out of the House, that instead of just following the vehicle itself for which there are taxes owed or fees owed, we're now potentially going to be looking at the person themselves so that they can't go and get a new vehicle, they can't title some other car, re-register some other car, and not have to pay the taxes that are still owed on that vehicle that the county is trying to recoup the taxes for, or the town itself. So we did work with DMV and with VEDA, and so just to make sure that this doesn't impact a commerce, there is a temporary registration for 90 days for any registration of a new vehicle purchase from a dealer. But that's only a temporary registration. You have 90 days to get your house in order, and then after that, the registration is no longer active. So this is a proximate problem that's going on in Rich Creek and in Giles County trying to collect taxes. We think that we have a solution to this everyday problem, and one that came from the one-man police chief in the town of Rich Creek. So I give him all the credit.
So for purposes of my seatmate who was sitting beside me arguing over why we should allow people to drive that fail to pay fines and fees so that they can go to work and earn the money to pay those fines and fees, what is different about this than that bill? Other than this one's dealing with your registration and not your driver's license.
Well, so I think that we have to make sure that we pay our taxes and we pay our fees. That's promulgated based upon the fact that I live in that jurisdiction. I think any other legislation that's been before either your body or the body in the House may look at court costs, court fees, fines, things that are happening in some type of criminal or civil procedure, and that I think is a different conversation than simply just not paying taxes for your car.
Okay, Senator Edwards, you're on my cue.
Yeah, okay. I also represent Rich Creek and the one police officer in the great community of Rich Creek. How many people have been to Rich Creek? Anyway, there we go, 2, 3 of us, 4 of us.
Have an aunt and uncle that live there.
Mr. Chairman, what this does, it has nothing to do with paying fines for some criminal violation and therefore not being able to go to work. It has to do with registration and collecting the fees, and this is a pretty easy solution, it seems to me. You have 90 days and then as a temporary license, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I see the Commissioner of DMV is nodding his head.
So is anyone else in the audience like to speak in favor of the bill? All those in favor come up and be heard.
Mr. Chairman, Ann Gambardella with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. We appreciate the bill's patron working with us to make sure that our dealers can still title and register the vehicles they're selling while still maintaining the system at DMV for collecting those taxes and fees. So this change will allow our dealers to do the work they need to do without getting caught up in the process of collecting those taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Lee Pfeiffer. I'm the treasurer in Cumberland County, Virginia, and I'm also the president of the Treasurers Association of Virginia. And I just want to let the committee know that the Treasurers Association has reviewed the bill, and we're fully supported. It will help us collect taxes sooner rather than later, and it helps us close a loophole in the system. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of the speaker.
The treasurer?
Treasurer.
Senator Favola.
Thank you. As I read the bill, I'm under the understanding, if you will, that treasurers could work out payment schedules with delinquent taxpayers and, you know, still grant them the registration. Is that correct? I mean, nothing would remove that option that already exists now.
yeah, what this bill is doing, it's closing, I call it closing a loophole. It doesn't eliminate it, but right now, a taxpayer, a delinquent taxpayer that has a stop or hold, we call it stops, but it's withholding a registration renewal, they can go and acquire a vehicle and go to DMV and get their tags. But they can't renew them, but they can acquire a vehicle and they can get it. So what this bill does is if somebody does that, they can only get a 90-day registration at that point. So at the end of 90 days, that hold will take effect when they try to renew it. So I bet you 2 weeks ago, I had somebody come in, owed me for multiple years, a lot of money, not me, but the county, walked right past my counter, went to DMV, got a tag for 2 years on another car. So I had just taken them to court in December. They didn't show up for court. I thought the judge would help me out there. So this would help us out a whole lot with those delinquent taxpayers, the ones that evade the system, either intentionally or inadvertently, but it'll help us out a whole lot.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that this does provide you with leverage, which is a good thing. I would hope that treasurers have systems in place to catch delinquent taxpayers sooner rather than later. So you could get them on a payment schedule, I would hope. But
sure, we're willing to work with them. Yes.
Okay.
So, one question: if you have communications with the DMV, can you not communicate to them who your delinquent taxpayers are so that they are flagged before they register vehicles?
Right now, they can register a vehicle. They can't renew a vehicle.
Well, I understand that, but
this
makes it 90-day temporary, so it seems to me like you would have that communication.
Well, we communicate, we put the holds on an existing vehicle, but when they come in and acquire one right now, it's not getting them. So this is.
Let me ask Rick.
Rick Holcomb, DMV Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, yes, they put the stop on, to further answer Senator Favola's question, after they do all of their due diligence, including coming up with some type of payment plan, they'll put the stop on. The loophole that this closes is right now, we will allow someone to register a new car for up to a year. And what this does is it takes it down to 90 days. VADA is right. They worked with the patron to make sure that we can still use that wonderful online program, but they get 90 days of grace to actually come back to the county and pay the taxes. So it's just, so yes, we know who owes money, but this just makes it a little bit easier and corrects, I think, something that we shouldn't be doing right now. We shouldn't be allowing a year, but this gives us 90 days, gives them 90 days to get the car on the road, but still, they're going to have to make themselves good in 90 days.
So let me ask this question. Since we do this, in other words, if I owed fines and fees, you wouldn't issue me a driver's license. If I owe taxes, why would you issue me a registration at all?
Mr. Chairman, much broader question than I'm prepared to answer. But you know, let me say one thing. I do what the courts tell me to do. And when the courts say this person owes fines or costs and therefore we, the court, are suspending, I just follow court orders or else I will get held in contempt of court. Right now, the law says that if there is a stop put on the record by one of the jurisdictions, and including little towns can do that. We follow what they do, what they say. We put a stop on it and wait for them to remove the stop once the tax is paid. So, philosophical question that I'm not prepared to answer. I'm just saying that the law, which the General Assembly has placed on the books, has a loophole that this closes.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion that we pass this bill by just for the day?
Second. Well, there's some questions, and then you can make your motion. Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions, just so I fully understand the difference between this and the court fees and the difference between what happens when you buy a new car and when you're re-registering your existing car. So as I understand this bill, unlike with the court fee issue, am I correct that there's a hold on your license for failure to pay your property tax on that car? Okay. What is the hold? What is it you failed to pay that you get the hold to begin with?
Mr. Chairman, you were right up to one point. This is not a hold on your driver's license. This is a hold on the vehicle registration.
I misspoke. Thank you. But the hold is for failure to pay your local property tax?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, it's the property tax, but it's broad enough, and I know in Arlington County, the senator's familiar, even if you owe parking fees, you can have a hold put on your vehicle registration as a result of that, but it's very limited.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. But there is a nexus between the taxes and fees that you failed to pay that lead to the hold on your driver's license are related to the car or driving the car. Is that right?
Yeah, again, vehicle registration, not driver's license.
Yeah,
absolutely, there is a nexus that the fee owed is related to the car, or in some cases parking the car illegally. But that's what that's what is put on. That's what is put on the record.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Senator McClellan.
So, and for those of us who are concerned about the automatic suspension of the driver's license, the court costs and fees associated with that suspension are not necessarily a result of a driving infraction. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, that's probably one of the largest problems is that there are court-ordered suspensions for convictions that have nothing to do with driving.
Okay. So, follow up, Mr. Chair.
So, Senator McClellan.
So if you're concerned, which I think the chair is alluding to, those of us who are concerned about what happens when you have your driver's license suspended for failure to pay court fines. And as I see it, the difference between that and what this bill is addressing is you have your registration or your initial license, as I understand this bill, there's a hold on, not your license, your registration. There's a hold on it for failure to pay something that is a driver-related or car-related, vehicle-related thing. Whereas for the license suspension, the law that the Senate just passed a bill to repeal was allowing your driver's license to be suspended for failure to pay court costs and fines that included things that were not driver's relation. So I think these are two totally different regimes, but then one last question.
And Mr. Chairman, if that was a question, the answer is yes.
Isn't that true? Okay. So one last question, Mr. Chair. So today, you have a hold on your re-registration.
Vehicle registration, yes, ma'am.
But you don't have any kind of hold if you go buy a new car. And so what you're trying to do with this bill is line up your initial registration of your vehicle with what would happen if you were re-registering it. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just to be clear, I didn't vote for that bill. I was just saying, why are we even giving them 90 days? Okay, that's my concern.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure Ann will come back and talk a little bit more about that, but.
Well, I understand why Ann, because she wants to sell a new car. I don't want to give them anything. That's so anyway. That's just to be clear why I was questioning. I didn't vote for the bill. I just Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Getting back to what we were talking about as far as what we've already done this session, yes, we did get rid of license suspension for some other things, but being just part of a nexus to a driving permit or the act of driving is really a minor part of what we did. We made a policy decision to not take away somebody's driver's license or their ability to drive their car so they could feed their family, they could keep their job, they can continue to do what they had to do in order to make, at some point in time, the restitution or payments in back taxes or whatever. It just seems like we made a policy decision on one thing, and now we're saying, well, just because it has to deal with, auto vehicles, well, let's take their ability to drive away yet again. So it seems that we're confusing what we're trying to do here. One was a driver's license, and this is having to deal with plates. But it just seems to be we're being a little convoluted in our thinking here.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Senator Ardelia Hurst. I demoted you.
Not yet. I would say that, it's important to look at the individual versus the actual piece of personal property. And so when we're trying to make sure that any accounts that are in arrears, when we're trying to go after people who have not paid their taxes on a specific vehicle, all it essentially says is that we're trying to make sure that you can't go out and either title a new vehicle for a period of up to 90 days or re-register, some vehicle that might be in your yard or something like that's lapsed. It does not necessarily, though, prohibit anybody's ability to get to point A to point B. That could be one vehicle that has taxes that are still owed to it. They may have another vehicle that's in perfectly good standing that they would be able to take to go to their job, too. So I think that while we are looking at legislation that impacts driving and ability to drive theoretically, I would contend that this bill and legislation that was before, the senior body was, it's not the same. And I think it's a different issue.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Borrow your neighbor's car.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just reiterate, this has nothing to do with somebody's ability to drive a car.
No.
It has to do with the operator. This has something to do with the ownership, the registration of a car that somebody just bought. That's all it has to do. Property is a property right, not a right to drive a car.
And I would, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to again echo the comments made by the Treasurers Association. This bill also does have the support of the commissioners of the Revenue Association. We heard an example, anecdotally for sure, but a direct account just a few weeks ago of somebody walking in and getting new tags while they saw this individual walk by that they knew they had taken to court, for not paying taxes prior on a different vehicle. This is about trying to solve a problem, addressing a loophole, and certainly some of our smaller towns and smaller counties. Rich Creek has a population of 754, and every little penny that they can get, they are entitled to collect. And this gives them, I think, an ability to try and get people to be in compliance with the different provisions of their locality. Now, I will say that the DMV has a vehicle registration withholding program that does work. After that year period, about 94% of people do comply with the taxes that are owed. But after 90 days, only half of people have complied at that point. So by having that 90-day period, hopefully we can get people towards 100% compliance sooner.
All right. Any other questions of the patron? Anyone in the audience like to speak in opposition? Hearing none.
Second.
All right. There's a motion on the floor to take by the bill for the day in a second. Is that a substitute?
Mr. President.
There was a motion and a second to take the bill by for the day.
Substitute
Chairman, I'd like
motion
to call
to,
a
substitute
pending
motion
question.
to report the bill.
All right, there's a substitute motion that we report the bill in a second. And the pending question, the pending question was called. Was there a second? All right, pending question was called. We got to vote on the pending question.
Is to vote, is to order the vote.
Right.
Pending question was to pass it by, is that
No, pending question,
to
report.
report?
Right.
That was a previous question.
Just
Mr. Chairman, I would,
Senator Wax.
if I can do this as a parliamentary matter, I would move to withdraw my motion to report, motion to report the
right.
bill. I think that's just going to be the easiest thing.
Now we're back to the previous question, which was buy for the week. And there's a second. All those in favor to take the bill by for the week, vote aye.
Eight ayes, 5 nays.
8 ayes, 5 nays. See you next week.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We want to see you again and again and again.
All right. Delegate Heritage. Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Yancey. Yeah, I didn't see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, I have for you House Bill 955 in regards to utility vehicles, and believe there was an amendment from the House that we were able to carry over and bring to your attention. So we can move the amendment at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Chris, you want to report to the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the beginning of line 4 of the engrossed in the title, strike electrical service and insert public. And the second is on line 12, engrossed after or, strike electrical service and insert public.
All right, is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved second that we adopt the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman and members, what House Bill 955 does is it permits any utility vehicle, or like natural gas or, say, Dominion Energy, for example, when they're coming in to do some work or setting up new power lines or coming in after a storm, it allows them to use an amber warning light and then have vehicles, in essence, just move out of their way so that they can proceed in, and it just provides for safety, and it's an opportunity to provide quicker service, especially after a natural disaster. And that's all the bill seeks to achieve, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a common sense bill, and I move to report.
It's been moved and second. We report the bill. All in favor say aye. Oh, wait a minute. Got to vote. Sorry.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill's reported.
Mr. Chairman and members, thank you.
Thank you. See you down the hall. Okay, now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senators. I have two, House Bill 1068.
House Bill 1068 is not before us, is it?
I'm sorry, I thought they were both.
1069 is identical to Senate Bill 575, Senator DeStefano.
Yes, sir, and there's a line amendment that we would offer.
All right, read the line amendment.
On House Bill 1069, on line 15, engrossed, after section, insert 33.2.503.
So now, if I can ask, is there any difference, or does that line amendment make it identical now?
Mr. Chairman, that does make the bill different from what it was, but it simply adds the hot lanes, that tolling facility, to the list of facilities that this section would apply to.
Okay, Senator DeStefano. Okay. All right, go ahead and speak to.
Sure.
By temporarily.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Delegate McGuire. Who? Is it here? I don't have it on my docket. All right, if you, yours is on, 1068's on, so come on up. It's a license plate bill, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real briefly, 1068 would simply add to veterans of reserve forces of the United States, those eligible to receive and display plates for the reserve forces. I certainly knew that retired veterans from the reserve forces couldn't get plates. This came to me from a young lady who had served some time ago in the Navy Reserve, couldn't get a Navy Reserve plate. She's proud of her service. I've talked to Commissioner Holcomb. This simply adds to the list of veterans or retired members of the Reserve Service who can apply for and receive reserve plates.
Okay. All right. This one would this one be exempt from the 450 since it's already a plate? Yeah, all right. So you understand this is just adding certain military veterans organizations, and they already have a plate, so just they would be exempt from the 450 because they already have a license plate.
Mr. Chairman, I think the reserves are actually getting that now. I mean, I've seen reservists going with military plates as well. As a matter of fact, we had one of them visiting us today, and he has a Navy on his, and he's a reserve retired, I believe he's a commander, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they can get it today, but I may not be, no, they cannot? All right, then. Don't tell me the name of the He may have been on.
He was from Maryland
when he got it. So if I'm not mistaken, if you're reserve on orders, you can get it. If you're a reservist not on orders, okay.
No, a reservist can get the plate. A veteran of the reserves cannot get the plate currently. This bill would allow us to issue it to someone who's honorably served in the reserves, but is now no longer in the reserves.
Got it. Okay. Move to report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We report the bill. All in favor say, vote aye.
Thank you, Senators.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
You had chance.
We're good with 1060.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to your House Bill 1069?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chairman.
All right. It's been a motion and a second to report the bill. All in favor, vote aye.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bill reports. Delegate McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I move to a technical amendment.
You want to report the technical amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On line 18 of the engrossed, after request such, strike endorsement and insert indicator. And on line 23 of the engrossed, after D period any, insert veterans indicator placed on.
All right, is there a motion on the amendment? It's been moved and seconded for, that we adopt the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, this is a veterans bill that would add a veteran indicator to our driver's license. Our leadership on down from the governor has been, we sell Virginia as the most veteran-friendly state, and this is a way to simplify life for our veterans. When veterans get out of the military, they're given a proof of being a veteran on a Department of Defense form called a DD-214. It's about this size. And there are many situations where you need to prove status as a veteran, and rather than carry this around with you, there are 2 ID cards that look like 2 driver's licenses right now. A lot of guys don't participate. 48 other states have an indicator on a driver's license that says the word veteran, and it's an optional thing. So it would make life simpler for our veterans. And, you know, some people risk their time and some people risk their money. And for the men and women that risk their life, I think this is a great step in the direction of making Virginia the most veteran-friendly state.
Mr. Chairman, I may have 1 or 2 questions for the patron, but I must point out that this is his first bill, not just through the House, but his first bill in front of the Senate. And if I'm not mistaken, this may be his only bill in front of the Senate. And so,
Could be his last.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, with that, I may have a question or two for the fine delegate. So I guess the first
Senator
question would
Stiff.
be, what would happen if this was for a member of the military that worked for, let's say, I don't know, SEAL Team 2, and
hypothetically.
decided, hypothetically, that he wanted to put this on his driver's license. However, he retired, he got out as a veteran 3 years ago. What would happen in that instance?
Well, let's say, I served in SEAL team, and whether you're in a SEAL team or Special Forces Army or whatever, it's optional. So if this sort of thing is what you want to do, it'd be no extra cost to the veteran.
But he would be eligible for it, correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that as I address the good delegate, that I actually go through the chairman when I address the good delegate. So what if on his DD 214, if it had a less than honorable discharge? Where would we be there, Mr. Chairman?
Delegate.
That is a good question, Mr. Chairman. I worked closely with Department of Veteran Services on this and the Commissioner of DMV, and together we came up with a solution. I would ask the Commissioner and see if he might be able to help me answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, I object. That's a waste of the Commissioner's time. How dare he?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report this
Mr. Chairman,
file.
Senator Edwards, you have a question?
A serious question, yeah. Now, this looks like it would take away the authority of DMV to issue veterans identification cards, or just add to it?
It would eliminate the veteran ID card and merge it into one. 48 other states do this. It's simpler. And there's, according to the Department of Veteran Services, Mr. Chairman, we are on our way to 1 million veterans in Virginia. And I think the population of Virginia is 8.5 million, so it's quite a bit. And it would just simplify and make life easier.
Mr. Chairman, but my question is, suppose you have a veteran for any number of reasons that does not have an operator's license. Then the only way to identify them as a veteran, if they want to fly an airplane, for example, like my mother, had a stroke. She couldn't drive, gave up her license. But to fly, she needed to get DMV to give her identification. What if she were a veteran, which she was not, but she wanted to have a veteran's card, where would she get it without having an operator's license?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. Actually, this is perfect timing for this. I understand that in the General Assembly, we've been working on this idea for 10 years, and we're finally close to a solution. And this is the time that real ID is coming out. And so the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we can talk to the Commissioner to make sure I'm right on this, they actually offer identification cards where we could put veteran on that if they're no longer driving.
Mr. Chairman, I would move, I don't have any language, but I don't think we should require a driver's license to have a veteran's card. We ought to be able to do both for people that don't have an operator's license, or for whatever reason they don't have an operator's license.
Mr. Chairman, I think that is an option here. They can do
I think Chrissy probably can answer that question pretty quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill would actually allow the veterans indicator to go on a driver's license, a permit, or an identification card.
Okay, that'll solve the problem.
Senator
Thank you very
Cosgrove.
much.
Well, just a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the financial impact statement on this, and many no ill will towards you, Bill. There is a $100,000 implication on this bill. According to the financial impact statement, it does have to go. I believe the chairman told me earlier that
Did you have a budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we had a budget amendment, and last I checked, it was $72,000, but.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
It was $18,691 to destroy their current stock, and then another $72,520 to provide CBN.
So is there?
It's even if it's 72. Meaning no ill will to your bill, but I think this probably has to go to finance. But I do have a question for the delegate, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Do you work for Anheuser-Busch, sir?
I'm 49 years old. I've never tasted alcohol in my life, but I got lots of other issues, but I do not work for alcohol.
Well, I would ask why you're wearing the Anheuser-Busch Budweiser symbol on your lapel.
That's a good name for it. This is a Navy SEAL trident. It's a symbol for being a Navy SEAL. And there are many ways to serve, but it was an honor and a privilege, and if my country asked, I'd do it again. But I consider it an honor and a privilege to be here today, serving again, and symbol for Navy SEALs.
Mr. Chairman, just one final comment.
Senator Cosgrove.
I asked that question specifically so we would get that answer. I appreciate what you've done. Anybody that has any idea what BUD is all about, it's not something I could do. So God bless you, sir, and thank you.
Thanks, sir.
So Senator Wexton, I think you had gone in the queue. Do you still have a question?
I just wanted to ask Rick Holcomb a question about these licenses or these veteran cards. So is it anticipated that it'll just be the same thing as a regular license, but with a V, like we have restrictions or things like that? I mean, how do you anticipate these are going to look?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Wexton, what this bill does, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we came up with a freestanding veterans card, which lists, it doesn't have your address on it. It's a one-time $10 fee. We've sold about 100,000 of these. So if you want this, you're going to most likely carry your driver's license along with this. What this bill does, it combines the two. Senator Edwards pointed out that we can't afford to run two programs in parallel, so by passing this, we will stop doing a freestanding card. There will be a veteran indicator on your regular driver's license. So you'll be carrying one card. The indicator most likely will be VET. That's what most other states do. So you'll have one card that will indicate, just like it indicates your organ donation status, it'll indicate your veteran's status as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I would move to report and re-refer to finance.
There's a motion and a second to report and re-refer to finance. And let me just say this. Had this been next week, we may not have had to do this if we'd have known that your money was in your budget, but we don't know that. So we can vote on the policy issue and send it up to finance until we see the budgets next week. So all those in favor of reporting and re-referring to finance, all vote aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays.
13, congratulations.
Thank you.
So next on our list, we haven't killed any bills yet, but we always have Delegate Ferris. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, Rick Holcomb doesn't know about this bill, but if he did, he'd be in favor of it. So,
Has it got anything
I hope
to
he
do
doesn't
with?
know about. I hope he doesn't know.
Does it have anything to do with Susan Shor's hunting dogs?
It does. This bill removes the requirement that in order to operate a motor vehicle equipped with certain lights that they can be hooked up but do not have to be covered if you're using them on the road. So if you're looking for your hunting dogs and you have these lights to shine in the fields to look for your hunting dogs,
while a deer's standing beside of them,
you can operate that if you pull off the road. Not if you're on the road, you cannot operate them. But if you pull off the road, you can shine your light in the field and look for your hunting dog. And then you do not have to recover your light to go back into the right-of-way. You can just simply disconnect electricity and cut your light off and then travel on the highway. Current code requires you to cover that light.
and it has to be clear, right?
It has to be a clear light, cannot resemble any kind of emergency or police type lights.
Spotlight.
Just a clear light to be able to look, to use to work by.
Spotlight your hunting dog.
Mr. Chairman, that's illegal.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Delegate Ferris, does the state police have a position on the bill?
Yes, sir, I think they do.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxon, Virginia State Police. Senator Cosgrove, State Police has worked with Delegate Ferris on this, and he made some adjustments to it to include the clear lens as well as the clear reflector. So with that, our concerns have been addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Is there any candlelight power that allows, it can only be spotted out so far from the vehicle, or is there?
My understanding was this was for spotlighting the cows.
I got, okay, I understand.
Mr. Chairman?
Senators.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Delegate Ferris has a well-deserved reputation for being shy and retiring, and anything that helps him shine his light, I think is a good bill, and I would move to report.
It's been a motion and a second to report this shy delegate's bill.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one quick question.
All right, one quick question.
Now, on that cattle that you may be trying to illuminate, would any of them be like standing, like maybe a picture of a cattle or a dummy of a cattle or a foam cattle?
I understand there's such thing as a dummy deer, but I really, at this time, it's been so long since I've seen one, I can't exactly recall.
Okay. You've done messed the machine up. We got to do a voice vote. All in favor of reporting this fine piece of legislation, House Bill 1354, will say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Your bill's reported.
Edwards and Deeds are an aye.
Edwards and Deeds, and Newman, Suderline, and Peaker, aye. All right, that completes our docket. Hopefully, we can move through our next docket. When we come back next week, and the two bills that we took by for the week will just be a short discussion about those so we can move through. We have about 15 bills. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we go, Delegate Austin has a license plate bill, which basically is to keep the lights on. It's the electrical co-ops. There's 450 other required pre-registrations. If there's a motion on that bill. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. We report the bill. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, bill is reported. Aye Newman, aye Suderline, aye Peak. We're adjourned.